The difference between changing the mind of an idiot and a reasonable person is you got to spend 100 times the effort on the idiot and they still don't change their mind.
It's been really hard to sort of look around and recognize the cruelty in people that we have seen. And it's been really hard to look at people, applaud some of the things that have happened.
I think I told you this story. I was at the airport, guy behind me's decked out in Trump everything. All right, and I'm like, all right, what are the chances? Guess whose seat he sat next to?
I feel like right now, I don't know where I fall in this party anymore. We're not winning elections. We don't seem unified. We don't know what issues we're going to get behind, which ones we're going to pull away from because we're afraid that's going to alienate voters. They've gone so extreme on the other side. What's stopping me from just going so far left that you can't even see me anymore?
We do have an extreme left. That's the problem.
My question is, do I want to be a part of it? Because the part of the left I'm on doesn't seem to be working and it's frustrating me.
I argue with my own party constantly in this state. I've gone to their so-called listening tours. And I'm like,
alert, they don't listen.
You're still not listening. Like, you really need to have a meeting to talk about this. The question is, if the Democrats do take back over, what are they going to do? There has to be a fundamental change. And whether it's the Democrats changing themselves or some third party coming around, because I can't even disagree with the people who say that the two-party system is dead. We seem to be proving that.
I was going to say, we killed the two-party system. And we killed it because people didn't engage in it. And because people didn't participate in it. We killed the two-party system because of gerrymandering. We killed it because we don't give people voting rights. We killed it because we just thought that only certain people should vote. And the Democrats probably did some gerrymandering too, but nothing as consequential as what Republicans have done. And the only people who can solve what ails us today is we the people. And if we can't figure out how to talk to we the people about what's happening, where they feel strongly enough to get engaged and participate, we're going to lose. I do think that Chuck Schumer is in fact a roadblock for us right now. And if people want to see the party in a different way, then we have to. It doesn't mean that it's a massive transition. It just means that you're saying, let me step aside and let's take a look at how we are going to fight Trumpism in a different way and more aggressive in tone.
I'd like to see Schumer out. I'd like to see Pelosi out. And this has nothing to do with age, right? This is beliefs, right? Bernie's almost 80 years old, but shares a value that many people now see like, wow, he was right. There's a reason why a guy like that goes to Coachella and in the middle of a concert goes on stage and there are people young drunk people cheering, fight the oligarchy.
And the future of what happens to America is dependent upon your generation. Now, you can turn away and you can ignore what goes on, but if you do that, you do it at your own peril. We need you to stand up to fight for justice.
I agree with Fennell said. I think, we might see things in a different aspect. Our message is basically the same, that we have to come together as a people and demand the changes that we need. There's got to be some type of revolution. I think, we need a change, and we need people to come together and fight for what we want, whether they're Republicans and Democrats, to say, hey, if 70% of people believe in universal health care, then I want those 70% joining us and fighting in everybody's office, calling their senators, calling their Congress, and say, we demand this. We demand all these things. Unfortunately, it takes terrible times for people to actually start. When it affects them, then people start saying, all right, I got to look towards this. And we're at that time, right?
But that's, obviously you make that argument to Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer shrugs his shoulders and walks away. He's like, yeah, come and take it. I mean, isn't that what it's going to have to be?
Exactly. And the other thing is that Chuck Schumer will have an election. And if people believe that Chuck Schumer should be gone, then someone has to primary him and they will win. And so I think the way that we talk about this and people are like, oh, but it's the big money, it's the this, it's the that. I really don't think that at the end of the day that it's about money as much as it's about engaging people. And I think New York just proved that if you can get the people behind you and if the people who actually want to do something, instead of sitting on the sidelines and just complaining, if they want to do something, then they can get out and vote.
I think when it came to the race in New York City, it's the same thing that kind of like in AOC's district. AOC won a Trump district, right? Trump, they voted for Trump, but they voted for AOC. And we've talked about it, right? That obviously the messaging is very, I feel you, I see you, the middle class is done, this, and this. And that's what people want to hear, right? They don't care. We talked about it. Nobody cares about rhetoric if they can't put food in their refrigerator. Every single person I've talked to, from Republican to this, to anywhere walks of life, I want affordable housing. I want better health care. I want veterans to be treated better. This is not new, right? I mean, like universal health care, 70% of people want better health care, universal health care. But every time we vote for somebody, we don't get the right people, right? We're a democratic oligarchy hanging back to be a dictatorship the way that we're heading. We have the illusion that when we vote for someone, they're going to do what we want, but they're not. But to what Fennell's saying is that it's getting to the point where people are saying, I'm tired of this. So you see it in the mayor's race. These are what I want. We want a new blood. We want the people who are going to understand us and do what we do. Now, if he can do it is one thing, but his messaging is on point for what people want, because there is a revolution, a civil war heading to this country. You have people like me and people like them and in every state who are pushing back on it, but you still have the corporate Democrat, right? You still have this corporate Democrat, this old school Democrat stuck in what politics was through the 80s and through the 90s and through today, to saying that this is too far to the left, this doesn't work. So this is the battle, but what they don't know and they don't think to themselves is, this is what FDR ran on, right? This is what Truman did. This is what progressives or what a Democrat used to be, right? The thing that Bernie produces and says is not like far-fetched. This is what our party used to be.
Yeah. So let me just say this.
Yep.
Because this is what cracks me up about working people. And frankly, whenever we say working people, I just change it to white people, because that's who we're talking about. Because when it comes to Democratic policies and voting for Democratic, the base of the Democratic Party, as small as it may be, 26%, whatever the number is of Black people, they vote for Democrats. We saw 14% of them go towards Trump in this last election, but Democrats vote for Black people vote for Democrats. So when we're talking about working class people or whatever it is, we're really just talking about white people. And when we're talking about white people and we're talking about what Bernie Sanders is espousing, who the voters for Donald Trump, just remember that Trump voters on an average earned $75,000. So these weren't people who were hungry or needing to put food on the table. With the Affordable Care Act that many white people ran away from as hard as they could as soon as you called it Obamacare, we're never going to move from like 0 to 100, but it put more people who were insured than we've seen in this country probably since FDR. These are all things that working class people should have been jumping up and down about. Every single thing that has been put in place previously to help working class people, Donald Trump has stepped all over. And we're still trying. So I hear us, but what I think we fail to understand is that there is a way that politics works. And so this guy from New York, Mandami, can get in office, but he has to bring people with him, and he has to have enough supporters to say, these are the policies we want.
But this is what happens over and over again in our historic and our politics. Our politics and our government has been ruined. And now it's going to take a significant change to get people there. Right now, you got to worry about private equity. They're buying every piece of real estate known to man, but they can't be blocked. You got tech companies that can't be blocked. You have no regulations.
The question is, how do we move forward? And what is the transition to moving forward? But what people do, what Democrats have to do, or anybody who believes in a democracy, is you have to insist and expect more from the people that we put in, which means that we don't have to just write to Republicans, we write to Democrats too and tell them what we're looking for. We go and we protest in those offices too to say, this is what we asked for. So we vote people in, which is what we should do. But we should also have the ability to vote out even Democrats when they don't do what we've asked them to do or what we voted for them to do.
Guy behind me's decked out in Trump everything. Guess whose seat he sat next to? I had a whole conversation with him, right? He was a union leader in Tucson, flying out to protest, I think, Verizon. But there are people who are like, who truly believe in affordable housing, and I've talked to the most right-wing nutjobs who said affordable housing is a human right. There's commonality with people. It's just it's just the messaging, and so it's tough. It's not easy by any means.